Welcome to the Using the Newt Setup Wizard video tutorial. Please note that closed captions are available.
隐藏式字幕以普通话提供。
한국어 자막 안내입니다.
Thank you for choosing Newt, the compact IP, SDI, and HDMI signal converter by Ross Video. This video is part of a series of tutorial videos which walk a user through the initial device setup all the way through to making connections between network streams and HDMI or SDI interfaces. This installment covers how to use the Newt Setup Wizard for initial configuration of the Newt in order to get it ready to stream real traffic. In the first video tutorial, we covered how to connect the Newt through the dashboard and change the device name and IP address for the management interface. We will now walk through the rest of the Setup Wizard. The next parameters you will configure are the IP addresses for the 10 gig Ethernet ports, shown in Step 4. Similarly to the management port, we recommend using static IP addresses allocated by your IT department. After changing the IP addresses, reboot your Newt for the changes to take effect. Also, if you haven't done so already, now is the time to ensure that your 10 gig links are connected to the Newt. Strictly speaking, you only need a fiber plugged into Net 1, but we recommend having a fiber plugged into Net 2 as well to allow you to take advantage of the seamless protection switching and bandwidth aggregation features of the Newt. When the Newt boots up again, Step 5 of the wizard ensures that your 10 gig links are up and running. Note that the status of the links now shows both links are OK. For licensing, you will need a license key if your Newt did not come with the pre-installed licenses. This can be obtained by contacting Ross Video and providing us with your request code. Each operational mode is licensed separately. As you can see, I have a license for 4x3 gig SDI, but not for the other modes. I will apply a license for SDI by pasting a license key in the license key column next to the appropriate operational mode, and then clicking Apply. The column count will change to 1 if the license has been applied successfully. You now need to specify the operational mode of the Newt. There are 3 operational modes: IP to 4x3 gig SDI gateway, UHD over IP to HDMI 2.0 gateway, and 2 SDI in, 2 SDI out IP converter. All 3 modes have the 2 10 gig links and differ based on the active SDI or HDMI interfaces. If the current operational mode is not what you want, you will need to choose the correct mode. Switching to a different operational mode will cause the Newt to go into a reprogramming cycle followed by an auto reboot. So, for example, if I want to configure the Newt to be in HDMI mode, it will trigger a mode switch since we are currently running in 4x3 gig SDI. During the reprogramming cycle, an overlay will be displayed in Dashboard, preventing a user from changing any parameters on the Newt. When the reprogramming is complete, the card will auto-reboot, so you will temporarily lose access to it in Dashboard, but it will return after a minute or 2. After the card reboots, you will now see that the current operational mode has been updated to the new mode. Next, you will need to specify the frame rate of the Newt. The options are integer rates or non-integer rates. Integer rates include frame rates such as 25, 50, and 60 Hz. Non-integer rates include 59.94 and 29.97 Hz. I will change the frame rate to integer rates for this demo. Notice that after I change the frame rate, the wizard will indicate that a reboot is required for the change to take effect. I will reboot the Newt now. The card has come back from its last reboot after changing the frame rate. Now the last step in the setup wizard involves configuring PTP. The first thing that must be specified is whether your device will act as PTP master or slave. In most cases, you will check the slave-only box since there will be a separate PTP grandmaster in your network. However, in the setup discussed in the last tutorial video involving 2 Newts connected back to back, one of the 2 Newts would have its slave-only setting set to false or unchecked so that it can act as master. Additionally, you'll need to specify the PTP profile to use. The default, SMPTE SD 2059-2, is expected to be used in most cases. A default domain of 127 is used, but this can be overridden by selecting the custom PTP profile checkbox. Other PTP settings can be overridden as well under the Timing tab in the Advanced Settings. This won't be covered in this tutorial though, since the default settings should work in the majority of cases. If PTP is configured properly, the interface status will show locked, and the current reference will indicate PTP slave or potentially master if the slave only box is unchecked. There is also an indication of which 10GBE interface PTP is locked on. It is important to stress that if PTP is not locked, you should not proceed with any additional steps. PTP is central to other functionality, and if it is not stable, the behavior of your NUT can be unpredictable. It can take a couple of minutes for PTP to lock after a reboot, so be patient if it isn't locking right away. If it still doesn't lock though, after waiting an appropriate amount of time, you should confirm your PTP settings with the network administrator. The Advanced Settings Timing tab will provide some additional PTP status that can be useful for debug. Assuming PTP is locked, you are now done with the Setup Wizard and are ready to start setting up network connections. If your NUT is in the 2-in 2-out SDI IP converter mode, you will actually see a 10th step to allow you to easily enable your senders in certain cases. In order to use the wizard for this step, you must enable random IP addresses. This means that your NUT will pick random multicast IP addresses and ports for each of the sender streams. This is sufficient for a demo situation on a test network or in the case where you are connecting two NUTs back to back without a switch. In this case, ensure that you have connected valid input video sources to SDI ports 1 and 2, and then you can check off the enable boxes for each SDI input port and click Apply. You are now transmitting. However, when connecting into a real network, we recommend that you get IP multicast addresses and ports assigned by your network administrator, and then you can configure these on your NUT in the Advanced Senders tab. Expand each SDI input port group and enter the appropriate multicast address and ports, check the enable box, and click Apply. You can also rename the sender streams in this configuration tab. At this point, your NUT should have no active alarms. You can check this by looking at the circle in the NUT tab or beside the name of your NUT in the basic tree view. If all is okay, this should show a green circle. If not, you have active alarms. You can go to the Advanced Status Device tab and determine which alarms are active, as they will have a red circle beside them. Either fix the issue causing the alarm, or you can use the Advanced Alarm tab to mask particular alarms if you understand the cause but do not care about it at this time. Once the board status shows green, you will now have a clear indication if anything subsequently goes wrong, like if a source stream that you are using stops transmitting. You'll notice that at the bottom of the Initial Setup Wizard tab, there are options to hide the Initial Wizard tab and the Welcome tab. You can click these boxes and click Refresh at the bottom of the screen to clean up the tabs. You can always bring back the tabs through the Advanced Settings Device tab if required. This concludes the Using the Network Setup Wizard tutorial video. We recommend that you proceed to the next tutorial, Making Connections, to learn how to connect network streams to your NUT and drive the video outputs. Thank you for watching and for choosing Ross Video.